Hello, in this video you'll learn how to display QR codes in Blazor and generally how to generate them using .NET 10, modern library, very sort of straightforward arrangement, and we'll take a look at a few different formats that you can actually generate. So you'll have several formats and with that we can begin looking at the code. First of all, what you will need is a library to use. So now if we go to the NuGet packages, the library that we're using in this case, and it is a popular one, it is a good one, it works very well, it has the latest support and all that, QRCoder it is called. With that comes a bit of setup in the program.cs. Now we just add little scoped registration for it. There's really no other setup, but you just have to add the service registration. Now we can go to the page where we have everything, but essentially we just have a few buttons and a way to display it. We'll get back to the display part a little later, and other than that we essentially just have a few examples with a few inputs, but we have a service which actually handles the generating part. First, let's look at a sort of most straightforward, probably most popular way to use QR code, and that is to essentially just have a URL, URI. In order to do that, we need to construct the QR code generator and then use the method create QR code. Sort of straightforward, so essentially if you take a photo of it, you'll get this link displayed, and that will be great and all that. But something important to mention, we have these ECC levels. So essentially, Q stands for quartile. There is also higher, a bit of a higher level. Now, if you lose part of the QR code, you can still get the URL. So the lower the quality, that means the less loss you can actually sustain, meaning it will be perhaps hard to scan, especially if you're printing it out. Maybe someone brushes it off a bit, or maybe there was some other damage. So QR code doesn't have to be full in good quality in this higher tolerance for it to be read. That's kind of an important thing to mention. The other thing is we generate the PNG file. So this will create a sort of byte array as such from PNG, so you can actually have the image. Now, there are some other options you can actually use, and you can, in some ways, perhaps look into the QR code here, the QR code data. There's not much you can actually do, but you can save raw data. So if you want to just save those QR codes and not as an image, or just save them somewhere for later exploitation, you can also choose to do that. But in order to generate the image, it's a very simple procedure. We construct this PNG byte QR code object, and then from that we get the graphic. Of course, in this case, it's PNG byte, so the graphic will be a PNG file, and that will be a simple byte array. And again, there are other options, but in this case, we're looking at this, so the idea would be still similar. Now, for this case, obviously, we will be displaying it in Blazor server, and that's why we create the sort of whole arrangement as base64, and then we convert it to base64. Of course, if you are doing perhaps a Windows application, then you already have this file. So it's just a matter, do you want to save it, save a file to the file stream or something like that, perhaps save it in some Azure storage. So there's many things you can do. The reason we have a base64 is obviously to display it in Blazor, which you will see a little later. Now, there are other options, and we can do a different color, so it doesn't have to be black. We can also add a little color here, and the QR code itself, the data for it will be exactly the same if we want to add those colors. The actual difference will only be that we add the colors. So if we use generate QR code data for the URI, or we use colored URI, again, the actual QR structure will be the same. We use the same PNG byte, The only difference that at get graphic point we add dark and light RGB. So light is the background and dark is the actual QR code. There may be some laws depending on what colors you choose, and obviously you have to be a bit careful about these colors because white on white certainly won't work, and that's kind of the point. So just something when you play around in general with QR codes, whether it's this library or something else, you need to be a bit more careful about that. Even if it's a higher sort of loss quality level, it don't make much difference if it's blurry and impossible to read in that way. What we can also take a look here, we have some different formats. So different things, perhaps different devices will require you to have some different format. QR code in general can represent any kind of data, but you do have those generic formats. One thing to mention, these formats, while they are generally predefined and the standard formats, you can absolutely have your own format for your own application. So if a scanner is meant to scan this Wi-Fi format or vCard or something else, yes, that's what you need to set up. Essentially, you set up whatever format the scanner wants. But if you're building your own scanner or application that scans it and you need a more specific format, you can certainly add your own even JSON payload structure or namespace like we have here, or some URI schema, so you can play around with it and depending on what your actual needs are, do all those things. Again, it's just text. Text that's displayed via this QR code image, and whatever scanned it will be text, and it's just how you interpret it. So now let's get quickly just this download part. It's relatively straightforward, and you can get this code on Patreon as well as some free courses for certain subscription tiers, and do watch some other videos on Blazor on this channel. Some new stuff came out on the .NET 10, quite interesting things. And the minimal API should be very interesting for someone using Blazor server to perhaps expose a few small routes. But in any case, the download essentially is quite simple. We already discussed why we have the base64, because we will need to display that here as a string and here as well. So essentially, it's just local download. We don't need any helpers. So we don't need anything like that. If you have that base64 plus the actual base64 string, the definition plus the string as we had in that return method, we just put it in the image source and that gets simply displayed. And with that said, we will conclude this video.